August now here on the farm, and this month we've added some new daily chores into the rotation. So we knew that there were water issues here when we bought the place, and we've been working on them. And what we've had to do is come out. We're in the front stream right here, and what we've had to do is establish a maintenance schedule to catch up with basically a decade's worth of not having anything done to it. Now, say 150 years ago, that road wasn't there, the railroad tracks weren't there, this farm wasn't here, and so this stream, which comes from a spring across the road, simply flowed down through this land and out into the Skycomish River. Well, fast forward 150 years, and you've got a road that bisects the stream, and so you've got a culvert there. You've got this stream that runs through the farm, which has had culverts added to it at various different points over time, and then it's got the culvert down at the river. And so every single time man gets involved with modifying, improving, doing whatever to the landscape, you end up adding maintenance. And a lot of our daily routine this month has been doing the maintenance that is in arrears. So this means, number one, finding the culverts, because this was a great big grassy knoll here. Had no idea there was even a culvert here until we started cutting back to figure out why there was a blockage. Now we know. And so the culverts themselves were blocked very heavily at the entrances, but also at the exits, and then the tunnels in between filled up with silt and debris over the years. So a lot of what we're doing is just cleaning this out, and this improves the flow. But this only does part of it, because a lot of what we have to do here is also stream restoration. And so while this spot in here is nice and clear, most of the rest of the stream here is choked. And so what we're going to do next is I'm going to go and show you the daily routine further down the stream where we've already done a lot of the clearing work. So, the other thing that we have to do to get the water to flow appropriately through here is to clear the original stream bed channel. So, when we first started working, if you look at the blackberries around me, they were the high water mark. So basically, this entire area was over my head at one point last winter. So, through culvert clearing and such, we've dropped it down, but the culvert we saw is way back at that second telephone pole back there. And so what we have to do to get that water level to drop is make sure that the stream is clear and flows easily. So you'll see in front of you, right in the foreground here, that's the original stream bed channel, as best as we can determine. What we've done is this canary grass that's growing up that's choking the stream, we've pulled it back and away, because it'll literally float out over the stream, and then it goes down and it eventually chokes the flow of the stream. And the good thing is, as you can see up here, there's a decent amount of flow right there, which tells me that it's pouring right out of the existing canary grass blockage. We just need to continue clearing this to go back. And the fun part about this is jumping back and forth, because this area, this whole area is still kind of mucky down here, because it was underwater a week or so ago. And the last thing I want to do is accidentally erode these embankments. And so the trick that we're doing is by using the rake to fold the canary grass up and over, and then by simply using pressure, we're snapping the stalks, and then this reinforces the bed. And it takes a couple tries sometimes. But the good thing about this is that the canary grass that's folded over helps me actually protect the bank from erosion, because it gives me a better place to stand. Otherwise, if I cut all this back, it would be absolute muck down here, and all I would be doing is knocking down the stream bank and silting the river. which is not a good thing. Now, but you can see why this becomes a daily task, because it's not a quick one. Not if you want to do this correctly. I mean, yeah, somebody could come down here with a brush hog and whack the snot out of all this stuff, and then choke the stream with it, and then come through with a backhoe and dig the stream back out. But I don't even want to think about what that would do to the local ecosystem, because this stream has tons of frogs, newts, eels. There was a beautiful big gray heron down there the other day, in fact, eating frogs. So the last thing I want to do is do damage that will hurt the stream in the long term. You know, a little bit of disruption in the short term is okay, as long as it's not significant. And in some spots, this horrible canary grass is rooted in the middle of the stream, and if I don't pull that out, it'll end up channeling funny coming out. Now, the good thing is because this has been draining for a few days, it makes it much easier to find where the proper stream bed is, versus if I had been out here on Monday trying to do this, I would have been, number one, up to my knees, but number two, I would have been all over the place trying to find out where to go. But this will probably take us, you know, if you can see, like I said, that telephone pole is that culvert that we were at, and in between the near telephone pole, if you can see the little hillock over there, that's a second culvert. So to work all the way back from that, you move it about, well, I don't know, probably 10-15 feet an hour, half hour. And so I'm estimating a good 4 to 5 weeks. If it was just me, I'll get the rest of the crew out here, teach them how to do it. But, you know, we've already seen massive drop in the overall water table on this half of the farm, because the way that this place is situated, so you've got the Route 2 high, you've got the railroad tracks high, and the ground in between slopes towards the road. So this is the natural slope to this stream. And what we have to do is get all of this restored back to this natural slope, so that all the groundwater that gets stuck on the land here because of the flooding, or because of the historical flooding, will instead neatly flow down into this stream. And goodness gracious, the further I get into this canary grass, the more choked it is. This is bad. And so there are times when I have to completely rip it out. I'm not keen on it, but that's what you have to do. And more often than not, I got to break out my other favorite stream clearing tool, which almost always gets lost in the grass somewhere. Ugh. Simple grass scythe. The great thing about this is this canary grass mats and forms islands in the stream. And so whether I'm cutting the grass or I'm cutting the mat, in either case it rips right through it. And this grass has just been the bane of our existence in all the grassy areas. Because it has grown unchecked for at least 10 years. And so you have fresh grass on top of dead grass on top of dead grass on top of dead grass. And because of the sticky nature of this stuff, meaning it's got a lot of carbon in it, it doesn't break down because hasn't been enough free nitrogen supplied. Now the good thing is, with the goats and the cattle, they are applying nitrogen at a pretty fantastic rate right now. So they're in the field that they've been moved to. They're currently helping recycle all of this canary grass into a fine nitrogen fertilizer. But doesn't do me a heck of a lot of good down here. Now, whenever we see footage of erosion, you see it in the Great Depression era where you had the Dust Bowl, and you see these fields and these giant crevasses in the middle of fields where they've had sudden rainfall, and then that rainfall has washed all the topsoil away. The thing that most people don't think about is this happens in rainy areas as well. So we are actually in the middle of a field here at the farm. This is the far field. The stream bed we were in is about 30 yards that way. And what happened, based on what I can tell of strata around here, is that somebody figured it would be a good idea to cut a shallow ditch for drainage at one point in time, rather than fix the stream. And so there was a shallow drainage ditch that ran back that way across the field. Well, fast forward 8 years, and you can now see that I'm not even at the bottom. It keeps going down over there. It's just the blackberries are too thick for me to bother cutting through them. What has happened is that with the subsequent flooding every year, multiple floods, multiple inundations per season, this has now eroded away to the point where it's just shy of 6 feet deep. And so we have this huge problem in the middle of our far field. You can literally lose cows down here. And this is something we're going to need to correct. Now, it may be that we simply collapse this feature down in, but this also tells me, as part of our long-term water management strategy, that we have to ensure that this field is either leveled or the whole field is appropriately pitched so that it drains properly. Because otherwise, what will happen is we will continue to get features like this, especially if we can't control the water inundation. Now, seeing as we're probably going to have that under control for this year, this shouldn't be a problem this year, but as we get out into this field and we start to mow next year, we're definitely going to have to be very careful. You could lose the tractor down in here if you had one. So, the important thing to keep in mind is that these erosion problems that we see in vintage pictures or on open fields, that you see across the Midwest, is not just in areas that are dry with sudden wet inundations. It's also true of wet areas that have significant wet inundation followed by draining. And so these are the types of things that we have to counteract, because ecologically, all the soil that was in here drained out into the stream and then drained and produced silt in the Skycomish River, which is bad for salmon. So we don't want to do that. We want to cut the amount of silt that comes off of this place to the absolute minimum possible. And that will be part of the longer term water strategy, most likely using floating hay bale holders to capture the silt as it goes off the farm. But the real goal, is to have good green growth everywhere. The proper growth, not this rubbish canary grass and the insane amount of blackberries, but good, low, solid growth, particularly along the stream sides, to hold those banks in place so that when we do have flood events, we're not washing the farm away. So, now we'll go back into the main part of the farm and go look at more interesting things, or I guess more fun things. We got the goats and the cows and all the good stuff. So this is the second field of pasture that we put together for the animals. So in previous episodes you saw the first pasture. They had cleaned that out, and we went ahead and we added a row of fencing along here. There's pre-existing fencing on 3 other sides, and their job is to basically clean all this down to the ground. You can see down here they've already started to do that job, and they're slowly working their way across. Now, one of the things that we're going to have to do, because more conventional farming, what would happen is you would never bring animals through first. You just simply mow, and then you'd plow, and then you'd plant whatever grass you want. But because we're using the animals as part of our clearing pattern, we're not using the heavy equipment, the animals have to come through and take all this down, and then what's left, all the chaff that's left that they won't eat, we're going to have to clear that in some fashion, and then we're going to have to get it off the field, because we won't be plowing or disking this field. You can see in the foreground all the chaff that's laying down. What that's actually doing is choking fresh growth. Now, this isn't necessarily stuff we want growing out here, but what I would like to be able to do is to get a bunch of perennial ryegrass, get some clover out here growing, and so we need to get this cleared well enough to expose enough of the soil and hopefully have enough of the season left to get it planted this year. If not, it'll have to be in the spring. And the juggling act we're going to be doing this year, because it's a clearing event, is hoping that, or working towards the fact that the animals should have enough graze to get them through to spring. If not, what we're going to have to do is bring in hay and supplement feed all winter, and that's not necessarily something we want to do, especially with hay prices of $15, $16 a bale. So the hope is that we don't have to do that, but of course we will plan accordingly and get a bunch of hay just in case and be able to find a place to source it all through the winter. But these guys have gotten, if you look down the row, so you'll see we've got this nicely cut row along here, and it goes down to basically that tree down there. That's the corner, and this is a square pasture. Our friend Rodney, who does have a tractor, was kind enough to come down and show off the tractor, because the kids had never really spent much time up close and personal with one, and my wife had never seen just how much you can get done with a tractor in short order. It's kind of part of my secret plan to convince everybody that I needed a tractor. And so he came through with his tractor and mower, and he cut this beautiful little path/road for us, which I can tell you, after slogging through the grass to get to the stream to work on, it makes getting around the farm significantly easier. And really, well, that's life on a farm. You got cows on camera and they start pooping. Silly things. But the thing is that, and this is where the water management becomes important, is that without the water management, and I've got goats attacking the camera woman at the moment, without proper water management, what occurs out here is this field becomes inundated. You can see all the cattails out here, so this was flooded. And so we have to make sure we have the water management correct, at least up until this paddock before the rains start to fall. Otherwise, we're going to have troubles with mud and animals and water, and it'll just be a big old mess. But the good thing is that the clearing efforts are going well. You can actually see the difference from the roadside now. We had somebody call in complaints about skinny goats, which, if you can see our goats, skinny is not one of their problems. Listen to that thump. Hi, Bertha. And Bertha is obviously wasting away here. You can tell by the fact that her belly sticks out a foot on either side. Yep, she's definitely wasting away. Wasting away. And she's been eating pine trees because her head's full of pine sap. Good job, Bertha. Now, despite the fact that this is currently covered in bees and makes some absolutely fantastic honey, this stuff is called knotweed, and it's an invasive plant species. Well, I guess, I don't know how a plant species could be invasive, I mean, unless they were triffids or something, but this is a plant that was introduced in gardens a long time ago, and it's basically taken off, and the issue with it is it destroys stream beds, it takes over local vegetation, and you can see I've got it in a number of spots along here. It's across the path, it's over on the far side. And so one of the things that we're going to do as the part of the restoration is take stuff like this out and get rid of it. You know, these are, I believe, category 2 bad plant, unlike some things like the blackberry bushes, which are category 4, which is basically yeah, good luck trying to get rid of it. So this stuff is, if you live in this part of the country and you start looking for it, especially this time of year now that it's blossoming, you'll see it everywhere. But our goal is to get it off of our farm. And so what we'll be doing in coming months over the winter, because what you want to do is this stuff, if any of it falls to the ground, it'll root and it'll start growing again. So you want to come through in the winter time when the plant is as dormant as possible and cut it all out, take it, burn it, shred, get rid of it, and then pull all the roots out. So this is on our list of things to do this winter, and for now I will leave the honeybees at it. And I just wish they were coming from our hive. These guys are little wild guys, and they're going back somewhere with lots of tasty nectar, and they will make a whole great big gobsmack of honey. So we're starting to get beautiful head of cabbage here. We've got a few of them, and you can see the tomatoes. I'm squatting at the moment, but the tomatoes are up above my head, and there are a lot of them. So what we are really kind of hoping and praying for right now is that we get a long Indian summer that gives all these tomatoes a chance to ripen. Otherwise, that part of the experiment won't necessarily have fared too well. But keep in mind how late in the season we planted all of this stuff. And to be already harvesting great big huge heads of cabbage in such short order is pretty impressive. But we're at the late point in the season, and some of the stuff has done well, some of it hasn't. The cabbage has done very well. The kohlrabi did exceptionally well. There are lots of peppers. We have tons of green tomatoes. So if nothing else, there's going to be a lot of green tomato salsa made this winter. The corn never really made it, but it's a very small stand of corn. This soil isn't really corn friendly, so I'm not hugely surprised. In our experimental seed bed, things came along a little bit later in the season. So we've got this huge batch of kale back here that are doing fantastically. The heat-tolerant spinach did surprisingly well. They're about gone now. You see they've gone to seed. And then this in here, that's the random leaf lettuce patch. It's the red lettuces. And then these guys are the baby head lettuce. So we had a big bad rainstorm come through almost immediately after seeding most of this stuff, and that's why all the lettuce is sort of congregated in one space, and there's some weeds in between. But we've been harvesting off the lettuce. We harvested off the spinach. These guys are basically ready to start pulling and making salads with. So this turned out very good. We know we can grow outdoors here with relative ease. This winter we'll be setting up hoop houses, and we'll start seeing how much we can go through the colder months. Because a lot of these things, like the spinaches and the lettuces, will grow in much colder temperatures, but you do have to have protection for them. But for right now, and hopefully this guy is good color off the tomatoes, we're starting to get a few of them once every couple of days, and they should be coming in hot and heavy in the next couple of weeks. I see a whole bunch ripening up. So hopefully we'll have enough to can this winter. If not, we'll be having some pretty epic tomato salads in the near future. That's basically it for this month. And next month we'll be continuing on with the field clearing, stream management. The goal is to pick up a trailer and start building, because it's just, we've gotten delayed, stupid things, is to start building our mobile chicken house. We hopefully want to feature that. But until then, we'll see you on the blog and have fun growing stuff.